5 Tobun no Hanayome, or Go Tobun. I think it's Go Tobun. I think 5 is Go. I think. I don't know Japanese, guys. I'm sorry. Okay. That synopsis took a lot out of me, guys. It took a lot out of me, you know? It sounds like the kind of thing you'd see on ABC or something. Shit, no. I don't really feel like I'm a fan of romantic comedies. I'm a fan of slice of life, but that doesn't sound interesting at all. That just sounds exhausting. So, I feel like I'm having to say this a lot lately, but I was wrong. I think sometime soon, I'm really gonna need to figure out a way to stop judging anime based on the initial synopsis, because very rarely do they actually do the series justice. I talked about that in several of my seasonal previews, but what happens when a series you passed up because of the synopsis ends up landing a spot in your top 10 anime of all time once you get around to watching it? I'm feeling this hypothetical firsthand now that I've finished the Quintessential Quintuplets, which began airing at the start of this year, but only recently convinced me to give it a shot. I was also convinced to give the series a binge after hearing the immortal words never spoken in the industry. It's getting a season 2?! The Quintessential Quintuplets follows Futaro Uesugi, an above-average student from a family with below-average finances, who was presented with a tantalizing employment offer. If he's able to tutor one of his classmates, he'll receive 5 times the pay. I don't blame him for taking it, all things considered. But when he shows up for his first day, he discovers that there was a slight miscommunication. It's not just one student, it's 5. Uesugi is tasked with ensuring the Nakano Quintuplets are not only able to improve their abysmal test scores, but also that they successfully graduate, lest he end up unemployed yet again. So, that's the premise of the Quintessential Quintuplets, but it's really only scratching the surface as the series takes tropes from other titles and implements them in more effective ways. If you'd like an example, bookending the season is a flash forward to Uesugi's wedding, proving not only that someone could stomach marrying this bookaholic, but also that his bride is actually one of the quintuplets. It's not confirmed which, to our displeasure, but there's an understanding that any one of them could have dyed their hair a deep red in the time between the finale and the wedding. Then, about halfway through the season, we learn that when Uesugi was younger, he met a girl who inspired him to improve himself, and it's very clear by looking at this photo of her that it's one of the Nakanos. So, there are a few things to take away from this. Whoever Uesugi ends up marrying is definitely a quintuplet, but so is the childhood friend. It's already treading into Love Hina and Nisekoi territory, but I'd argue this series entices the audience more than either of those. In both of those series, it doesn't really matter who the childhood friend was because we all knew that Kitaro would end up with Naru and Raku would end up with Chitoge. While the series presents the strong possibility of Uesugi ending up with Itsuki because she met him first, there's also just as much a chance he'll end up with Miku or Ichika based off the arcs featured in the first season. It's not immediately obvious who he'll end up with, which adds a layer to this series that many can only attempt to replicate. I mentioned earlier that the Quintessential Quintuplets has landed a spot on my top 10 favorite anime of all time, and now seems like as good a time as any to explain why. In order to do so, we'll need to go back to when I first watched Toradora. Toradora, well, it's not hyperbole to say it changed the way my brain worked. It had some of the most well-written characters and the most relatable and heartbreaking character arcs, and therefore became the standard to which I would compare all other anime. It may have been dethroned by Clannad, but it's still up there. I bring up this comparison because when I say the Quintessential Quintuplets makes me feel the same feelings that Toradora made me feel, you'll know I'm not exaggerating. I fell in love with the Nakanos in the same way I fell for Taiga, Minori, and Ami. I fell down a steep ravine for Miku's shyness, for Yotsuba's constant energy, for Ichika's big sister aesthetic, for Itsuki's well-meaning overprotection of her sisters, and for Nino's hardcore tsundere sensibilities. I'm definitely here to see where the second season, whenever it may arrive, takes them in their journey alongside Uesugi. And speaking of Uesugi, where most anime protagonists are incredibly dense, He's got a decent head on his shoulders, which is a breath of fresh air in a world where characters like Kirito and Takeo exist. Yeah, okay, he's still blind to the feelings of the Nakanos, but it's not to the incredible level of those doofuses. I am so happy to still be able to feel this way about an anime, especially a newer anime. In this era where shovelware is pushed out by the truckload, when a series is able to take my heart, cuddle with it, then curb stomp it by the ending credits of the finale, it's safe to say it's a good one. I will definitely be collecting the manga at my earliest convenience and tuning in to the sequel as soon as they announce an air date. I'd like to give a firm round of applause to Tezuka Productions for bringing these characters and their story to life. I strongly encourage everyone watching to go watch the Quintessential Quintuplets. I don't think you'll be disappointed. If you've made it to this point in the video, I want to thank you so much and invite you to click that subscribe button if you'd like to see more from this channel, and be sure to hit that bell icon to be notified every time I post new content, as if the subscribe button wasn't enough, YouTube! If you'd like to join my Discord server, you'll find a link to do so in the description below, as well as a link to my Patreon if you'd like to support the channel financially. If not, then I look forward to seeing you around the internet. I'm Pixelation, as always, reminding you to stay pixelated.